Welcome back. I'm Tedward, and today, thanks to Bond Group in Waltham, Massachusetts, we've got a very strange little treat for you. This is a 2017 Jeep Wrangler, but it's a True North edition. A little company called the True North Collection outfits these with a lift, Fox Racing shocks, this wild safari canopy that reminds me a lot of a Land Rover Defender. It looks a lot like my friend's Defender 110, and some very cool steel wheels. But it also has an Edelbrock supercharger on its 3.6 liter V6. And you'll get to row your own gears because it has a 6-speed manual transmission. Of course, a 2-speed transfer case for all that off-roading that you'd like to do. And I think this is a really fun, cool, different looking Jeep. In fact, from different angles, you almost don't notice it's a Jeep. I mean, I guess if you're looking on this video and you already know, sure, but it definitely made me double take when I first saw it from the back. I said, what the heck is that? Anyway, up front and rear, you get big steel bumpers. This is pretty heavy duty stuff. A Warn winch up here, so that way if you are out by yourself or with some friends who maybe don't have the equipment to pull you out, at least you've got an extra option. Lots of LED sort of lights up here, and it's got these kind of funky Putco Luminix lights for headlights. I don't think I've ever seen those before, but then again, I'm not a real Jeep aftermarket guy, so some of this stuff may look real familiar to a lot of you. And gluing us to the road or crawling on some rocks, we've got all-terrain tires. These are BF Goodrich KO2s on a very cool steel 17-inch wheel, paint matched to the vehicle. It's got a lift, of course, so it's a couple inches higher, which should give us plenty of ground clearance if we were to do any kind of rock crawling. But the fun thing of this one is that, sure, we love a 392 Wrangler. A V8 is still probably the best option when it comes to Wranglers, in my humble opinion. But the 3.6 liter is still pretty darn stout. It's just that it can feel a little anemic. So what they've done is they've partnered with Edelbrock to make the True North edition a little bit faster, a little more torque, and a little more power. It's cool to see this big supercharger sitting up top. You've got your pulley there, but what's funny is this like showcased sort of air filter right here. This Corsa Performance air filter setup is really interesting. Around back, it does actually have a pretty trick exhaust. It's got this dual exhaust coming out the back, which is a little silly on an off-roader, I'll have to admit, just because you don't want nice tips on your departure angle coming down some rocks. You're going to scrape those up, but that's okay. There's a lot of sort of scene points for this truck because it does look pretty darn cool, but it's by apparently DB Performance. Not something I'm aware of, but here's what I really like, because the suspension all around are these insane Fox Racing shocks with remote reservoirs, so we definitely are going to enjoy the ride, which should help it off-road. But honestly, when you get these kind of things on-road, they just make big off-road type vehicles drive a lot smoother. That's one of the reasons why we just love Ford Raptors so much. Inside, all right, so here's the coolest thing about this truck, is that this roof means that you get extra head clearance. So for anybody tall, you're definitely golden. There's no worries there, but you get the curved glass just like you would in a Defender. And because it's a Jeep, you're probably not going to have to park this on the side of the road all the time because something's wrong or it's not leaking all the time. Defenders are very problematic and they're incredibly expensive to fix. So it's really cool. Like, I don't think this is trying to be a Defender. I don't think it's a poser vehicle. But what I do think is that it is pretty cool that you're able to get this kind of roof in something that isn't a Defender, because otherwise, to get that roof, you've really got to commit to everything that is Land Rover of the early days. Up front, business as usual, but there's a big old billet shifter. I think it's a little too big. This is look at this. There is 2, 4, 6 hex lugs on this shift knob. That's a lot. It's a little overkill, but I think the whole thing is a little overkill. It's fun. Manual windows, which I love on a Jeep, because the thing is, even, you know, what's funny about this is that one of the best things about having a Jeep Wrangler is it's topless. You can take the roof off, you can take the doors off. So I'm curious what this would look like when you remove the cap and the doors and you're left with the supercharger, the lift, and these wheels. Because, you know, I think the iconic thing about this True North vehicle really is the cap. So around back, we've got our full-size spare, just in case anything goes wrong on the trail. We can come back here, open up our rear glass, really nice, and plenty of storage space, a little cubby to put some other stuff in there. But yeah, it's a Jeep. And today we're gonna go and drive this thing and find out how it is. Maybe this is what you want. Maybe this is actually the build you're looking to emulate, or maybe one of these pops up for sale. I do not know how many of these they built. I don't think there's a whole lot of them, but it's certainly unique and I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. So let's start it up and get out on the road. Pretty much all business up here, very typical Jeep Wrangler things. Not a whole lot of extra stuff from True North, but the shift knob definitely lets you know they've done something. We've got our very old school sort of Chrysler looking key. This is what you would have seen on like a Dodge Stratus, I think, too. But anyway, we've got 3 pedals, clutch in, get her started. Little bit of whine from that supercharger. Let's see if we can hear it. Little bit. Okay. A little bit of rev hang, and man, I gotta tell you, I get a lot of questions from people. Oh, we'll go up next to this Mojave too, because this is on similar kind of suspension, honestly. So it's kind of neat to see this next to the Mojave. That's a Gladiator, not a Wrangler, but still, Fox suspension on that, I believe. I really like that. People ask me a lot, how do I drive smoothly in my manual transmission? And I give tips because there is just cause and effect. Every action has a reaction. So if you're bucking around and giving your passengers whiplash, there's a reason and you can fix it. Wrangler manuals are sometimes my nemesis. These are vehicles that the 1-2 shift on the upshift I have some trouble with sometimes. So please forgive me if I'm a little clunky in this thing. It's a Wrangler, not a drag car, but it's got a supercharger on it, so let's see how it gets off the line. So it's not a 392, but it's quick. This solves a lot of the kind of slow car problems of a Wrangler, because when you're trying to merge on a highway in a Wrangler, it can sometimes feel a little disconcerting, like you really need some extra juice. This thing moves. That's on these big tires too. I think these are 35-inch tires, so it takes a bit of energy to move these things down the road. Ride quality with these Fox shocks. That's what you want. This is why I bought a big SUV, a body-on-frame SUV for my daily driver in New England. I've always been a sports car guy, but these New England roads are just starting to fall apart, and it's a nightmare to try to keep your wheels intact and not destroy all the bushings in your suspension. So having one of these in your back pocket, not bad. between the intake, the supercharger, and the exhaust, it does make a pleasant noise. I mean, at least it's different. I think it's kind of fun. I mean, it's not as good as the V8, but that's not a good shift, but it was smooth. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes in these Jeeps, I just have a little bit of trouble. You have to be patient, but not too patient, or else then it's clunky. But if you're not patient enough, it's just, I just need a little time with it. The gearbox is really easy to operate. I think this shift knob is too big. It's like the entire size of my palm, basically. So I don't necessarily know why that's fun or fashionable, but it looks cool. See how it does over this little bump. 'The drivability is really good. I think the suspension upgrade just makes this more composed and easy to drive. The last thing you want is a Jeep that's scary to drive on the road. Old Jeeps where you put 35-inch tires on them can be pretty alarming, but this feels pretty natural and fine. I don't think it's doing any damage. Sixth gear's always so tall in these, but cruises on the highway happily. Not too much noise from these KO2s. It's a Jeep, it's not like well insulated, but yeah, wind noise, it's a brick. Sure. But I do recommend rowing your own gears in a Wrangler if you can get one. There's a specific sign saying not to do that. For the Europeans watching, it is legal to turn right on red, and at least here, there will be a sign that says no turn on red if it is illegal, but otherwise, you're good to go. All right, we got some big bumps coming up, not off-roading, but indicative of daily driving your thing here. Like a champ. Second starts to feel long when you really run it out. What is it about a manual Wrangler that makes you drive like you're in a race car? There's something about this. You got to kind of manhandle it a little bit. It's fun, and I just find myself really enjoying it. Pulled over real quick because I didn't see the dealer plate on the back of the thing, and usually it flaps around a little bit when it's in the bag. So I was like, I wonder if she's still there. We're good, we're still there. But you know, I don't have a very good time driving when I'm like, is the thing still on the thing? I'm a lot more relaxed once I've seen it. I do have obsessive compulsive disorder, so once a pervasive thought comes into my head, I obsess about it. I have to check. Yeah, out on some regular roads, it's kind of nice to drive. I've got great visibility, a good seating position. Even the pedals are spaced nicely. Pretty easy to shift. Steering, it's not the most communicative thing. I don't get all the texture and granularity, but I'm not confused. I don't think I have to put an excessive amount of input into it to make it get around a corner. It's nice. Probably burning a ton of fuel. That's okay. I feel patient in it too. Like, I certainly love jumping into that throttle, but it's not so fast that I look like I'm like a lunatic. But I don't know, I don't mind just cruising around. This is something nice about having a bigger car. I wish people in like F-150s and 1500 series vehicles, pickup trucks, would cool it a little bit. A little Honda Acti, cool. I wish those folks would cool it a little bit. Once you're in these trucks, it's like, yeah, just enjoy the ride. You know, you don't have to go crazy. You don't need to be tailgating people on the highway and everything. It always kind of bewilders me that people don't understand the limited capabilities of their heavy car on like all-terrain tires when they're on a highway doing 85 miles an hour. But okay. So I think that's going to do it for the True North edition of the Jeep Wrangler. Third-party outfitters do some cool stuff, and it's always fun to see someone else's take. It's like a work of art. You know, what do you need out of your vehicle, and how are you going to make it different than what's already out there? And I think this has some charm. The Safari roof is probably the big headliner, but it's cool that it's got the suspension and the supercharger on it as well. I like the supercharger a lot because it just maintains the character of this engine, but just turns it up a little bit. And you know, you throw on some bigger exhaust pipes on it, and it's kind of fun. Does it need to be a rowdy thing? No, but I think for the sake of like making a name for yourself as an outfitter, you gotta do it. So it's pretty clever. Otherwise, it's stuff that you might already do to your Jeep, you know, steel bumpers and a lift and some different kind of suspension. It's good stuff. It's normal to do this. It makes it a little more off-road capable. But honestly, the power bump is really what does it for me. And I love that it's a 6-speed manual. I think if you're gonna buy a Wrangler, that's part of the charm. So that's going to do it for me. I'm glad we got to drive something a little bit different because sports cars are fun, but man, it's pretty hot out in the summer, and I'm glad to be on an air-conditioned ride right now. It's all right. So thank you to Bond Group for tossing the keys to this unique build. Thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one. Casually waiting at a red light on that? Okay.